Everybody stand, please.
I'll ad-lib this the best I can. Our friend Ed is on his way to Great Falls as we speak, driving to see an old friend who has had a brain tumor removed, and he wants to be with her as this all transpires. I think it's wonderful to see this room full of people today. And dear Lord, thank you for this assembly of wonderful people that care about the right things. There's so much to thank you for. And living in the Bitterroot Valley, in the amazing state of Montana, in our tremendous country of the United States of America, is such an incredible privilege that you have given to us. Here today, I look around and I see lots of people that get involved in government at all levels. So please, guide and direct our president, guide and direct our local officials and our state officials and people that care so much about the future of our country. And thank you for the gift of life itself. Amen?
Amen. Amen. Do the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Judy, you want to bring out an announcement?
At our house, they went to my name's Elaine Bridge, and I'm on your site. I'm on your website. Where are you from? I'm from Dallas right now, but I originally was in Wyoming for 35 years before I moved here. I've been here 14. And I'm a first-generation American from grandparents and a father that came from a communist country, and literally my grandmother escaped over the mountains, and they would be rolling in their graves if they knew what was going on right now. We have to protect our freedoms. It's my children that I have.
Of course, we're excited that Teresa's our speaker, and we have Senator Fred Thomas is here with us today, and we have our state committee man and state committee woman, Judy and Alice Cole, here with us today. And are you a new member of the school board?
No, I'm a failed member.
You did? Oh. Well,
The incumbents won.
thanks for trying. That's too bad. Well, let's see. We've got lots of guests here today, and it's wonderful to welcome back our old friends. Now, if I slaughter your name, will you forgive me? I think I have Rena Weather from Scalco area.
I'm working on it, guys. I'm sorry.
And, you know, we can't believe it. We got Jimmy Catton back. I haven't seen Jimmy forever. Penny.
You know, Miss Judy, I'm honored to be here, but I've got a bunch of photographs I want to get to you to present from people all the way from Joplin, Missouri, San Diego, California, up north into Montreal.
Wow.
I'm going to bring them to you and you can do a slideshow.
Oh,
It's going to be beautiful.
I can't take
and
it.
you're
Jacob DeVries.
Jacob DeVries, and you're on Central City.
Yeah.
He's our fundraising chair.
Fundraising chair. Good.
She
I've
used to
already
be.
sold 4 tickets, and I don't even know how much they are.
It's a good
And
one.
we're tickled to have Ron back. My goodness, we haven't seen him forever. He puts, what, 2,500 miles a week on his car. You guys eat this? Let's see. And Patty Jo Haskell right?
Plates are over there.
Jacob, are you Weber, she's from Hamilton. And we all know Jane Halford and let's see, my best friend here. It's good to have y'all here. Welcome back.
Thanks. Okay, Glenda, you want to do the treasury report?
Yes, of course. President Jay Blakesley called the noon meeting of the North Valley Pachyderm Club to order with 38 present on May 3rd. Ed Sperry led us in prayer. Ray Hawk led us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Judy Klein introduced guests. The minutes from the April 19th meeting were approved as read. Treasurer's report, we have $2,587.28. Jeannie Poe announced the next Celebrating Conservatism Society meeting will be the third Monday of the month. Skip talked about the meeting going on about septic systems. President Jay Blakesley introduced our guest speaker, State Senator and Majority Leader Fred Thomas, who talked about the legislative session, what bills were passed, some that didn't make it, and some that were bad bills that were passed. Question and discussion followed. The 50-50 was $98 and Alan Barr won $49. The meeting was adjourned, respectively submitted, Glenda Edgeworth, I can't even talk. And I have now paid our state and national dues, $20 per person, which we have 17 paid members, $4 to the state for 17 paid members. So that is, we now have $2,368.28.
Okay. All right. We're going to go to announcements. Anybody have any announcements? Yes, Ron.
Like Linda just said, the Advancing Conservatism Society is having a meeting this coming Monday evening, 7 p.m. in Hamilton at the Board of Realtors building.
Thanks, Ron. All right. Any old business? Skip, you got something?
I'll just give you a few sentence review on something I've been staying on top of that I've encouraged everybody at this meeting and other places to be aware of in the newspapers, and in fact, go to the meetings if you can on the second Wednesday of every month, which is the Environmental Health Department of our county. There's some very interesting and very important things in the future that are coming up. One lady that I know that goes to them is Katie in the corner over there. It's amazing some of the things that come up and some of the things that are going to be, they're going to affect everybody that owns a piece of property in this county eventually. So I wanted you to be aware of that. If you know Katie especially, she's on the board. And I'll tell you this, it's a wonderful job that she does for us because she puts all the cards on the table and makes sure that everybody understands the direction that this is all going. And I'm trying to give you the idea that you have a voice in this. And I promise you that as these new changes happen in the environmental rules in this county, you're going to want to be aware of it. Thank you for listening.
Thanks, Skip. All right.
To respond to that, it's not just this county, it's the state, and we're complying with the nation.
Oh, and you're complying with the state, huh?
We're complying with the state and the EPA, the national EPA.
Please correct me if this is wrong. It could affect every landowner in this county. Is that correct?
Yes, it has to do with septic permits.
Yes, and also whether it could, just as Craig Cyphers said at the previous meetings, that it could end up being a bottleneck of every sale of every property had to be.
We're working on getting that,
on.
getting it streamlined.
That would be wonderful.
That's why it's taken us almost 2 years
Yes.
to get through this.
But it's amazing the details that have to be dealt with, and that's why I was complimenting you on dealing with all of those things so efficiently. Thank you.
Okay. Do you have new business?
Yeah. If you've been to the Pachyderm meetings before, you know I'm a real fan of the Range magazine. This last issue had something that really hit me hard, and it's titled, "Are Wolves Really the Problem?" And it starts out this way. Bill McIrvin was sound asleep when the phone began ringing. As with most people, he assumed the late night call was important. He staggered from his bed and answered. The call wasn't urgent, and it wasn't from family or a neighbor. It was another Pignush call from a wolf advocate. Now this is where it really hit me. But this call was different. The voice on the other end was trembling, and it sounded as though she was crying. You have to stop killing wolves, she quivered. Don't you understand what wolves do? If a child gets lost in the mountains, the wolves will find them, take care of them, protect the child until they can lead them back to safety.
Oh my goodness.
Are you kidding me?
This is what we are up against. When you have somebody with that kind of a thinking, where do they get this?
They'll take care of your cat and dog too.
Yeah, jump.
You cannot change this person's mind.
It's like 3 little pigs.
And then there was one here, paragraph I wanted to read because I thought it was just funny, and then I got something for Teresa. This starts out with, touch me, Jesus, touch me. My ship is about to come in. The Green New Deal is going to make me whole. I will start bootlegging meat. My bootleggers will stand on corners in the cities wearing trench coats and cowboy hats. They will stop people to say, hey buddy, open their coat and show them T-bone steak, sirloin, and tenderloin. I will be the El Chapo of the illegal beef trade. Now,
How do they keep them cold?
Yeah, exactly.
But it just broke me up. And this is for Teresa. This guy says his favorite saying is, since you raise horses,
Yes, sir.
he says his favorite saying is never holler whoa in a horse race.
That's right. That's right. But always holler whoa when the big government's running away.
Yes.
Whoa. Just say whoa. That is my tagline.
But this magazine is just fantastic. It's interesting. And if you're a conservative and want to keep the country the way it's founded and keep food on your table, this is a great magazine.
Well, on another note on that subject, they had a news article last night on the news about this guy that's invented a new hamburger, and it's made out of vegetables, and everybody's going crazy about it. They said it's going to replace meat. So just to let you know that they're working on replacing meat.
Yeah, they're trying
And
to.
it probably works for the Obama Department of Agriculture that was actually pushing meatless Mondays.
Yep.
Probably. So anyway, they're working on it, trying to replace meat. All righty, so moving on, do we have any more new business? Anybody, new business? Okay, we are gonna go with our speaker, Teresa Manzellas, our state representative, so carry it away.
Awesome, thank you so much, Gwen. Hello, North Valley Pachyderms. I am so glad to be back in your presence, in the presence of friends. This is my favorite group. I tell you that every time. This is where the principal conservatives live, and I consider you my friends. And I'm very, very thankful to be here with you today. This is my opportunity to share with you a legislative summary, what we experienced over the 90 days, 87 days that we spent in the legislative cycle, the 66th legislature. And it's hard. It's hard to condense all of the things that we did into a small segment of time. And quite honestly, I would love to be able to share with you all of our victories and all of our successes and that we came home heroes. I would love to be able to do that because I love the Republican Party, I love the Republican platform, and I love what it stands for and what we stand for. But sadly, today my presentation will probably be somewhat uncomfortable for me as well as you. And I need to ask your permission. May I share my truth with you?
Absolutely.
Yes.
May I share what I experienced?
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you, I appreciate it. You want to know my perspective, the truth of my perspective. I appreciate that. Okay, so I'm old school. I work off a little easel, and my
You're even
easel,
older school than I am.
and my easel's not cooperating very well. But we'll see how this works. We'll just have to go with it and adjust and overcome as we need to. Show of hands, is everybody aware that there's a rift in the Republican Party? Good. So we don't have to pretend that there isn't one. Good, I'm glad to hear that. Few Sundays ago now, there was an article in the paper. I think it was something titled 3 Solutions Caucus members from Valley County share their perspective, or something along those lines. And there was a comment made by Representative Beatty about principles, about those of us who stand on principles. We claim our principles and then we don't have to think any further, okay? And so I'm one of those. And quite frankly, he's right. Whenever I decide that there is a principle that's been broken, that I adhere to, whether it be biblically or constitutionally, or on the Republican platform, if it's outside of the parameters, then he's right. I'm a no, and I'm moving on, because there's way too many bills to be considered and way too much to do in the legislature to waste time. But I want to share a little bit about my growing up and my experiences that led me to be what I consider to be a principled person. I certainly wasn't always. I hope to become more and more principled as I go through my lifetime, because I find security in principles that are tried, true, and tested and proven to work, okay? This principle is something that's very familiar to anyone who's ever built a building. I'm sure Jacob knows about it. It's the Pythagorean theorem, or if you're my father, who my father was a general contractor. We had Dick Manzella and daughter, general contracting, and he used to take me to job sites and we would lay out buildings. And this was what he called, with his 9th grade education, a man who ran several successful businesses and a pilot and accomplished everything he ever wanted to accomplish, had a 9th grade education, because that's what the American dream did for him. He called it the squaring principle of 3, 4, 5. And when you go out to lay a building, if you put a stake in the ground here and go 3 inches or 3 feet or any multiple thereof, and put a stake there on that corner, and then you need 2 tape measures, and you draw to here, and you measure 4 foot here and 5 foot across this corner. This will be guaranteed 100% of the time a right angle corner. Okay, and that's exactly what you need to build your home, is a solid square foundation from which to build, to maintain the structural integrity of your building. Comparative, and again, it works for any multiples thereof, so 6, 8, and 10. And here, I've illustrated what happens if you get off just a little bit. If you're 1/2 inch off in your measurements, here I've done 6.5 inches, and 10.5 inches, and 7.5 inches, all of a sudden, you don't have a right angle. Your lines are going to skew, okay? And the further you go at a skew angle, the more compounded the problem becomes, okay? And that is an example that I see with a problem within our legislature, that we are putting layer upon layer upon layer of law and regulation outside of the principles of our Constitution. Okay? And when we do that, there is no reasonable place to stop. We have no chance of squaring our foundation again and building any structural integrity into our program. So I want to share that with you, and I want to share. I'm going to give you an example. Senate Bill 307 was one that passed last session, and I brought it to the attention of many in our Central Committee. I don't know if I shared it here, but what Senate Bill 307 did was it gave school boards the authority to pass up to a 10 mil levy on the citizens of their district without a vote of the people. Okay, so that's a permissive levy. Okay, that's up to a 10 mil annually. Okay, we did that. Okay, now what does our Constitution say about that? We abdicated our taxing authority. Article 8 of our state constitution, under the heading of Revenue and Finance, states that the power to tax is inalienable to the legislature and shall never be surrendered, suspended, or contracted away. But we gave our authority to the school boards to tax our citizens up to 10 mills annually at their discretion without a vote of the people. Further, Article 10 of our state constitution covers the topics of education and public lands. Okay? Interesting, isn't it? That education would be lumped in to the topic with public lands. Education and public lands. What do they have to do with one another? Well, I'll tell you. Our constitution specifically states that our school trust lands, our public lands, are to be managed for maximum revenue production to fund our public schools. That's what the provisions that were made when our Constitution was put together. Our public schools are to be funded by our public lands, and that is the #1 objective of our DNRC, our Department of Natural Resources, is to manage our public lands for maximum revenue to support our school system. Now let's jump to this session. This session we had bill after bill after bill after public education bill. I don't know how many of them came through. A bunch came through. 70 to the tune of 77 million. They asked us to put an additional 77 million. We are so far past the principle put forth in the Constitution. There's no reasonable place to stop. Okay? And I voted no on them, not because I don't like children. I believe in the education system. I want the best for our children. I just simply think that we need to be adhering to the principles put forth in our Constitution. And that, my friends, is the best argument that we could make to solicit more public lands from the federal government. Okay, that right there. We need more, because our DNRC is doing a good job of managing our public lands, but with inflation and the numbers of people that we're trying to accommodate, we simply need more public lands for them to manage. Does anybody not know that our state does a whole bunch better job of managing our public lands than the feds? Can we agree on that? Yes, absolutely. Okay, all right. Alan?
Well, what you're saying, at least the way I'm reading it, is that we really don't have a constitution. If the legislators can do this, then why do we have a constitution?
Well, that's the next thing we'll get rid of.
Well, yeah. You know what, and I should have said it, I meant to say at the beginning, that I got a lot of information to share with you, far more information than I could possibly share in a short period of time. So I am going to ask that you, we love to interact, and I love to interact with you, but I do have so much information I would like to ask that